The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
I am Emily Swallow, also known as the Armorer on The Mandalorian. And I'm just giving a little shout out to the Secrets of Star Wars podcast because this is the way.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, episode 155.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hey everyone, I'm Angela Sealana, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away. From movies to books to TV shows and more, we're looking at the deeper themes and meanings found in Star Wars, and the fun stuff too. Today we are diving into The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 5, entitled Chapter 21, The Pirate. So joining me today are matey Josh Beeghley. Welcome aboard.
Hello.
And Mando has the armor. We have the artist. She is Kathryn Laffrey. Hi, Kathryn.
Hello.
And for this episode, I'm going to call him Captain Jon Koral. Hiya, John.
Hello.
Okay, I totally didn't tell them I was going to do that, so. Now, we'll go to first impressions of this episode, because really, I think the title just reminds us all of which episode here we're talking about. So, Josh, let's start with you. What was your first impression of this episode?
I think an easy way to... There was a lot of different action scenes going on and a lot of hidden meanings, I guess, or things you have to sort of pick up on, which I thought was really interesting to sort of look at, and I think we'll get a dive into that deeper later.
Yeah, good tease. Kathryn, what about you?
It just felt like a big adventure. It felt like it was longer than it actually was. It's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Captain?
I really liked it. It was one of my favorite ones this season because of the action and because just the, I don't know, like you said, all the different scenes that, I don't know, just some of it made you just feel good, I guess. It was just you're just sitting there and you're like, oh, yes. All right. Yes. It's like, and, kind of satisfied some of those things that, it kind of seemed to be missing in some of the past episodes where it seemed sometimes they're slower, but.
True. Yeah. Some of the episodes kind of have more of the deeper things. And this one really felt like Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. I think I've seen interviews with them where they talk about how they just want to kind of be kids playing with their toys and, and their action figures. And this really felt like that to me. So that was kind of my first impression. Also just some intrigue and mystery. So let's get into it. Definitely. The pirate crew of Gorian Shard returns to invade Navarro. And although they caused a lot of havoc, you got to admit, there were definitely fun tidbits, little favorite pirate-themed elements. Does anybody have a favorite pirate-themed element? I think for me, it was that they tweaked the show theme to kind of sound like a pirate reel. And I absolutely love that. So did anybody else, do you have a favorite pirate stuff that happened?
Oh, come on, that first mate, Ugnaught. Oh, he looked just like, oh my gosh.
Captain
Mr. Smee.
Yeah,
Yes.
or Mr. Smee, yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That was adorable.
I was definitely getting Peter Pan vibes from it. It was like, that was kind of cool. But the only other thing I thought about too was like when they were on the planet, before they were liberated, they were going through like some scenes and stuff, but as you saw the people walking around, I almost was thinking some of those guys, not all of them, but there were some that you hadn't seen like since you saw like at the cantina or something, like the guy with the walrus face kind of thing. And it made me think about, well, maybe in the cantina, you know, it was a dangerous place. How many of those were truly pirates? And, you know, and Han Solo was a smuggler. So, but it was just like, it kind of made me think back to, well, back, you know, the Star Wars, the original, to seeing those characters. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember those. Kind of made me think more about the cantina in that regard too. But
Definitely.
Yeah, they've done a lot with the costuming, I think, with the Mandalorian and making all of those different aliens come to life. I love the drunk scene of the guys out in the main area, and they were shooting at the monkeys in the tree trying to hit them. I thought that was just pretty funny to see them act like idiots, as pirates always do.
All they needed was one of them whistling for a dog. It was like the Pirates of the Caribbean ride.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely Pirates of the Caribbean vibes. And going back to the original trilogy, as John mentioned, when Greef Karga says to Gorian Shard, you shot first, or something like that. It was originally, of course, I believe it was a reference to the original Star Wars film when Han Solo shoots Greedo first.
Yeah, because Gorian Shard said, "Is that what you call gunning down my helmsman in cold blood when he let his guard down on your planet?" And then Karga says, "He shot first."
Yeah,
and I highlighted that in my notes there because. And there was another one later on with Captain Teva that brought back memories of the original trilogy too. Yeah, so.
Yeah. So lots of fun stuff there. And we also had, as we continue into the story, we arrive on this New Republic pilot hangout place, and we get this huge reveal for Star Wars Rebels fans, a character that we previously met, Captain Teva, Carson Teva. He reviews this holo message from Greef Karga and discusses it with none other than Star Wars Rebels character Zeb in the flesh. Oh my gosh. So have all of you watched Rebels? Did you know what was going on?
I did not. So that was new to me. I didn't know who he was exactly. So I just knew he was a commanding officer, I'm assuming, and or higher level, but.
Oh, our whole family was tweeting and texting and, oh my gosh, it's Zeb!
Oh, I saw it, and at first I thought it wasn't him because I didn't recognize the voice, and seeing him in live action was a little different. But whenever I actually went back and was like, that was Zeb, I'm like, that's so cool. And the other thing was that the music on that planet, like as they were sort of coming in, reminded me a lot of the Fallen Order music, that like Cal's favorite song. And that was just like, so then I was thinking instead of it being Zeb, it was like some sort of like his Jedi masters who was the same species or similar, which kind of threw me off a bit.
Yeah. Well, I was almost like, oh my gosh, wait, and like my brain, it kind of broke my brain for a bit, and then he kind of ends his lines by saying, "Good luck, you're gonna need it," and that's what Zeb says all the time on Rebels. So I was like, that's got to be Zeb. That's amazing. So we get
a big throwback vibe from just watching them fly into that base.
Yes.
And this is going way back. And I even was like pointed out to my husband because one of his favorite shows growing up when he was a kid was watching Black Sheep Squadron. And that's all about the Corsair pilots. Of course, another folding wing aircraft, just like an X-Wing. But the way that base was laid out was very much Pacific Theater, World War II kind of vibes, even the bar and everything. So it was really kind of neat little nod to Baba Black Sheep.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's a great point. I mean, it looked like a place where I would want to vacation. So we get politics back into the storyline now with the New Republic really getting involved and using its resources to defend its member planets. So Captain Tiva goes and requests help to defend Navarro. And by the way, he is requesting it from well-known actor and comedian Tim Meadows. So if he looked familiar to you, yeah, he's one of the longest running cast members on Saturday Night Live. He is a well-known character actor. So Tim Meadows, really cool to see him. He plays Colonel Tuttle here. And he's absolutely swallowed in work. And so while Captain Tiva's making his request, lo and behold, who appears? Elia Kane, the former communications officer for Moff Gideon, who we have gotten to know a little bit this season. And Captain Tiva is kind of putting some pieces together about what's going on with the pirates and with Navarro and everything. And he believes that there are remnants of the empire that are growing in influence. And so there's a lot of things to discuss here. So first of all, the ethical situation for the New Republic. Do you think it was right for Colonel Tuttle to refuse the request?
I feel like I don't even know this New Republic anymore, so don't count on me. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around what's the new canon for the New Republic. So I haven't read any of that stuff. So,
well, I mean, it's kind of the, what was it, following the letter in the law, but not the intent of the law in a sense. And I mean, you can, sit behind the red tape kind of thing and say, well, they're not a member planet, we can't help them. And besides that, we have all these other member planets that need our help, blah, 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 like he did. And I mean, I think, though, there should have been something to do, because if you're getting somebody coming from a Delphi base all the way in to show the concern, at least send out somebody to see that the issues out there, versus even if they didn't go with, the full like attack squadron or something, at least follow up more on it to, to help out, because not only are you letting the planet down, you're also letting your captain down, Captain Tiva down instead. So it's like, and that's where I and then of course then you have Elia, who's kind of like the if you have an angel and devil on your shoulder, she's kind of like the devil saying, hey, no, it's okay to do that, that kind of stuff. But it's but yeah, I thought they should have done something. But
I think it's also easy, like, I guess from the outside too, to think of it and just be like, yeah, no matter what, you should always help out the person who is struggling. But then it's like, they didn't have the resources, and we don't know what's going on with the rest of the galaxy. And if there's anything bad going on somewhere else, it's worse. So if there's another pirate somewhere who is like a member, yes, you should help, but with limited resources, you can only ever do so much. And he sort of has to make a weighted decision there in the moment. He can't really just be like, yeah, let's sit and talk about it and think about it more. It's a yes or no now kind of thing. And that kind of pressure isn't always easy.
True. I do think, though, that Elia coming in and kind of making those points very strategically, as she did, that, she was swaying him, and I'm not exactly sure if he would have refused a request so swiftly as he did if she hadn't been there. So I don't know what you guys think of that.
She feels like she's definitely playing a spy game in all of this. Even the way she was talking, it was just like, she's like her twisting of words about, being able to see the light. Like she's all of a sudden on the good side now. Look at me, I see the light. I was liberated. And it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just like, yeah, she's just being a little too conveniently. Do you need something from the commissary? Really? Is that how you get in on this private conversation?
The one thing, and I don't know how that works, but it's like you were mentioning about able to see the light, also being able to see the light's talked about later. And I don't know if there's supposed to be some kind of connection with that, and stuff. But I think I think the big thing with seeing a lion here too, though, is you're seeing that how, you know, is she the only Imperial in there helping the New Republic that way, or is are there lots out there trying to influence the New Republic's the kind of decision making, or keeping on top of what they're doing so that they can report back too, is kind of, well, it made you wonder, because seeing her in the first episode, you didn't know exactly what she was doing, but then now seeing her with Tuttle, then it makes you see, she's more influential than you thought. At least for me, anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my general impression of those, I guess, like, transfers from the Empire was that, like, they couldn't really get the same level of respect or, like, talk to people of higher ups kind of thing. It was more so just kind of like they're at the bottom, and that's what it seemed like based off of the Doctor.
Mm-hmm. Those episodes where we saw all of those others.
Yeah, and then she's just in there while they're having a private conversation between, I'm assuming, two higher ranked people, which threw me off a bit.
Mm.
And it was kind of like, how can she just be in wherever she wants?
Yeah, and I think she's very well written in terms of her kind of being a double agent, or at least that's what I think. That, the way that she insists, no, I was liberated, right? It's like she's supposedly gone through this deprogramming of sorts to, like, heal her from being, thinking like an Imperial. But, for me, I've been through, like, really difficult, true manipulation, like true bad abusive situations, and just the way that they're writing this character to kind of pose herself as like a victim who is embracing her, like, I'm so healed and I'm in a better place now, and using it to manipulate people, like, like, oh, I'm used to hearing that kind of talk, so it's really disturbing, and I think that's why people seem to be responding to her character in a very negative way because of that, because she kind of plays innocent, and she's not at all.
Yeah, because she got Pershing's trust a couple episodes ago, and then I think maybe because of the way Pershing was at the lower level, and some of those other officers talked like they didn't have much, influence, I think she's built it over time. And by being the double agent, in the sense too, oh look, Pershing is a bad guy, and I caught him, and we're helping him, and all that kind of stuff. So over time, I think she's grown with her influence because of how she's done that, or
I think there's one character that needs to come back, and he was best friends with Zeb. We need Agent Callus back. He's been on both sides of this, and I think he could sniff out a spy. It's like, bring back Agent Callus.
Yeah, so I don't know if I want to, like, exactly give away why you said that, but for those who do know what you're talking about, yes, I agree. And so Captain Teva does not get what he wants, so he has to go and kind of make his own solution here. So he tracks down the Mandalorians thanks to his old pal from the Rebellion, R5D4, which, by the way, since I had shared R5's backstory on a previous podcast about him fighting in the Rebellion, I was really happy to see that they brought that back up. So Teva asks Mando for help and just kind of says, hey, do with this information what you will. And then Mando kind of has this fireside chat with the Covert to propose that they all come out of hiding and fight with him. So I want to know what you guys thought about this scene. It's not the first fire ritual that we've seen with the Covert, and we're kind of, seeing how he's he and Paz were kind of swaying the crowd from one opinion to the next. That was really interesting. So what did you guys think about all that?
Well, I want to go back just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that just where the thing that I always find interesting with Mando and is how one good deed from somebody, then you always, is such a big important thing to a Mandalorian, because, nobody was willing to listen to Captain Teva, but, Mando, from his past experience, said, this man once cut me a break, and now I'm returning the favor.
Right.
And it's just, that's something and then, of course, then later on, well, I guess that then brings you up to Paz Vizsla, and how, you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, this is really going down fast. This isn't going to work out. And then how he, oh, but he saved my son, and he did, and all this kind of stuff. And that was really impressive. But it's like, that's the thing that always keeps hitting me with the Mandalorians, though, is, being indebted and then returning it when called upon. There's no question of, oh, well, maybe I should. Well, this isn't the best time. It's always, okay, Boba Fett, I'm here. Okay, I'm, I'll go help you. Whatever it is, they're always out there, willing to help, and it, doesn't take much, as long as they're indebted to that person. And same with Bo-Katan and Mandalorian as well and stuff. But
I guess it's because this is the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that fireside chat was really nice. It was good just to kind of see it felt just like old culture, gathering around the fire, especially the handing off of the armorer's mallet, hammer, whatever you want to call that thing. It's awesome. But yeah, just that handoff for that. It's like, that's the authority that you get to hold, to have everyone's ear. I was like, that was really cool. And then just you think about, the armor, she's working with fire all the time. I mean, everything about the Mandalorians is forged in fire. Great show too, but
yeah. No, I'll definitely agree. I love the talking stick of the hammer. And a little bit with that idea of them being like, I'm indebted to this person. Those people were also bad to them at once. Like, Grief Karga was supposedly in charge of like them having to leave their first covert, and then they're like, no, that wasn't him, that was Moff Gideon, and it's not his fault. And then like Paz hated the Mandalorian, and then now they're best friends. It's a lot of this love-hate relationship, I guess, that we're seeing, is someone does something bad, but then they're making up for it, or they're having this change of heart. And also, you sort of heard whenever Paz was talking of a lot of like murmurs and stuff in the background. But then as soon as he said this is the way, they all just focused. they all unanimously were like, yes, we have to help then.
Mm-hmm.
And then the armorer got the final decision too, which was interesting still, I think. How she's still sort of seen as the leader of their group.
She reminded me of the judges in the Old Testament, where she has that authority to kind of put him in check. We need to go a different direction, or this is where we should be moving. And it's like she says it and we do it.
Yeah, definitely. And as far as Paz Vizsla goes, when he picked up the mic, so to speak, I was just like, oh, here we go. Because I call him the drama king. Whenever he comes on screen, I say to my husband, that guy's a drama king right there. I mean, he's got his big, huge gun, and he's just, he doesn't do anything quietly or halfway. But that's what makes him a really memorable character. So, so when he says, it's because we're Mandalorians, that's why we're going to do it. It was like, yeah, he was really, I think, helped to lead the charge. And then we see Bo-Katan leading the battle, essentially for the liberation of Navarro. And that was really cool to see her. We already saw her leading a squad, to save the youngling, and or the what do you call it in Mandalorian terms? That's a Jedi term.
Oh, foundling.
Was he a foundling? Yeah, I guess the son of Paz. But now we're seeing Bo in this even bigger, real, life battle. And it was very cool. It was a really fun battle sequence. Does anybody have a favorite moment? Once again, we have an amazing sequence. We've got to talk about the cool moments.
Well, I mean, for me, I don't know. There were so many of them. It seemed like to me, because my favorite part, I mean, well, I had two mainly, but the first part was, it's just when he shows up in the sky by himself and, everybody looks up and sees him flying by, and you hear the few pieces of notes or whatever that, announces his presence. And that's what I've liked in the prior episodes, like when he fought the pirates the first time in the asteroid field and stuff. It's like, whenever it's quiet, you're in trouble, or something. But then when he came around and made that first pass at the Corsair, that was really cool, because it was, not only did he show up, but then, starting it. And then, of course, later on when they're chasing Bo-Katan and Vane's like, oh, look out, he's above us. No, look out, he's below us, and it's just like, that was really, I don't know, but it was just, I just really like how they write him as a pilot and stuff too, his calmness, and he's just like out there, and it's like pilots I've known, it's like when you talk to them and you hear them talk about flying and stuff, it's like, oh, wow, it really, it's like how calm they are compared to what I would be thinking, of everything they've got to be thinking about and doing with all those people on the plane, all that kind of stuff. But it's, but I like how he's just calm and, matter of fact, and, he's going to get the job done. But.
And that drop sequence, watching the Mandalorians drop in on the town, it was like, okay, so this is what they were doing when they rescued Din, that same sort of drop-in tactic. It was really neat. I loved seeing Bo-Katan just being in charge, especially knowing like all the battles and all the things she's been in charge of in the past. It's like, yeah, it makes sense that she needs to lead this charge.
Yeah, I loved seeing their coordination whenever they were on the ground too, compared to just stormtroopers who stand in a line and just miss everything. They actually had like a plan. They were in their groups. They knew what they were doing, just sort of taking the streets one by one. And I thought that was cool. And then for the whole air dogfight going on, I love the trench run, basically, of the three ships behind. And it was just very much A New Hope. You're in the trench, Darth Vader's behind you. And then, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree. And I would have to say my favorite moment was when the Arrgh came in and just strutted right in and started taking people out one by one. And it kind of showed just how, I guess, overly confident the pirates were, that they didn't have anybody keeping watch or anything. But I always love to see the Arrgh in action, definitely.
I did like it too when they found when they got the help from those little creatures in the tree for the ambush. Because they're pointing around the corner and he's like, okay, we might have an ambush here. It's like, after, minutes earlier when they're shooting, the pirates were shooting at him, like, and stuff. So I thought that was a nice little touch, but.
Yeah, the quacky and monkey things.
Monkey lizard?
Lizards, yes. Something like that. Yeah, too fun. Oh, all right. Well, yes. So we end up with a victory, and sad to see Captain Gorian Shard, meet his end, because I just love his character design. I really like the ship. I think it was so much fun. I'm sad that he's gone. I hope we get more stories about him. And so Greef Karga bestows the Mandalorians with a large tract of land on Navarro as their home. And Dom Bettinelli, our SQPN CEO, he actually pointed out on Slack that their tract of land is kind of a tribute to the original Boba Fett the first Mandalorian actor to appear in canon, because their tract of land is from the lava flats all the way to Bullock Canyon. And of course, that actor was Jeremy Bullock. So really cool. So now that we have the Mandalorians on a plot of land out in the open, they seem to be getting together, making plans, doing things, shaking things up. How do you expect them to settle down? How much of a settlement do you think we'll actually see on Navarro from the Mandalorians? What do you think?
Oh, I think that all depends on what happens next. It's going to be tough. I mean, have that talk that the Armorer had with Bo-Katan that could make or break how settled they are. It's interesting, though, that it was Din that brought up wanting our children to play in the sun. It's like he had so many experiences out and about with Grogu that I think he probably knows and has seen enough family life that he's like, we really need this kind of feeling for the kids.
Yeah, because he didn't grow up that way, right?
Yeah, and I think I sort of agree with that idea of we have to wait and see with whether or not more are going to come or not. But I don't know, because it seems like they've only really known how to sort of live in a cave and be in solitude. And they don't know how to go out, sort of like live in a normal society. It's been how long, I guess? They know how to stick to themselves, and them now interacting with a town and being a part of it is going to be an interesting situation to happen.
It was a great way to make new friends, too. Just jump in and save the town. Hey, we love you.
Yeah, they are the kid that saves the other kid from the bully, right? John, you have any thoughts on what we're going to see from the Mandalorians on Navarro?
I'm not sure either, because it's like, I thought, oh, this is great. They're going to have this long, build this big town or home for themselves. And then, moments later, it's like, it's time to go back to Mandalore. It's like, really? Or whatever it might be. But it's kind of, so, I mean, I can see them. I don't know. It's just, or, would there be some people that would be there and some that would want Mandalore? I mean, that would be another thing too. It's because what we've seen with Mandalore, I don't know, right now it seems like they got a better situation, and until they can figure that out more. But I mean, I guess it would be for at least somewhat of a while, but I don't know. It sounds like the way, but yeah, I was a little surprised by how it goes. The conversation went after that, soon after that, I guess.
Right. Now it's time to retake Mandalore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was interesting. And I wasn't sure if the Armorer was referring to the planet, and or the people, of Mandalore.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's remains to be seen. Now with Bo's character, she's part of this whole situation as well, and we see her meeting with the Armorer, who talks about being at the Great Forge of Mandalore. And by the way, who else panicked when the Armorer told Bo to remove her helmet?
I was excited. I was like, yes, it's happening.
Well, yeah, I was kind of wondering. It was like, well, I was a little nervous because I was thinking, is this a power struggle and then it's going to go south? Or, you could see the Armorer, because in the past you've seen the Armorer has, well, you can't see it other than, little, emotions and stuff. But, you can tell she's thinking about stuff. And it's like, is she thinking everything that Bo's telling her is good, or is she having concerns about it? But I think, though, over time, you've seen the trust build between her and Bo-Katan. So, but at first, I did have some nervousness about that with the, I thought, oh, everything's going great. And now, no.
Oh, I was very thrown off too. And then she said, like, do you respect this forge? And I was really thrown off by that part too, because then I was like, is she going to like fix her helmet, give her some new tech in there or something like that? I just didn't know what to expect. And then we got the rest of the story there.
It's like rewatching it a second time. I really was like, okay, now I know why it didn't throw me off too much, because the armor kept talking about the forged sounds, and she starts talking in a way where she understands the similarities among all Mandalorians. So I think the armor was talking herself through understanding that what she thinks as, the ultimate creed that they've been living out might not be the fullness of what it means to be a Mandalore. And I think as she started reminiscing about the forge on Mandalore itself and the Great Forge and all that stuff, that it was like she was starting to see that, okay, what is it that connects us? And I think it was like, not that we don't take our helmets off. It was more about, that deep meaning of the forge. And again, that ties back into that whole fire. It's that burning drive within the Mandalorians.
And it was a neat connection too, because like you were saying, is because of the in those prior episodes, Bo-Katan would periodically bring up the past and say, oh yeah, I remember how this used to look, or I remember doing these things, whether it was to Grogu or whoever. And it's like, and then talking to the armor, you saw a softer side of the armor, I think, finally, with that, where she, remembered back to the song of 100 hammers or whatever it was, and stuff like that. And you could see, but that was kind of neat. I mean, you can see how those two are connecting a lot more too. Which was nice.
Yeah, I think we were really lucky that the armor said, Bo has walked both worlds and she can unite us. And that it wasn't Colonel Tuttle who said, Elia Kane has walked both worlds and she can unite. because we're kind of seeing the same situation almost, but reversed, right? Like earlier we had talked about how the New Republic in their situation in this episode is like, the letter of the law, right? And here the armor is choosing to see what unites all Mandalorians and not necessarily looking at the letter of the law as she has, been taught it, as she even says, I was taught, right, that the mythosaur was just in legends, but you've seen it. And so it's almost like the armor has been willing to kind of open her perspective, open her mindset. And that's really almost a miraculous thing, when someone is able to do that. And so that really struck me.
Whenever you also talk about the mythosaur then, and the armor was talking about it, I was thinking more of Din and the battle between, I guess, the prophecy of the mythosaur and the Darksaber uniting the Mandalorians. I mean, that's been a huge theme through the Clone Wars, through Rebels, that whoever wields it rules Mandalore. And now we're told of a separate prophecy, and sort of seeing them now be put against each other with two different claims to rule Mandalore, and sort of seeing where that'll go.
Yeah, because she say the mythosaur is bringing a new age?
Right.
The next ruler of Mandalore will like ride in on a mythosaur kind of, or something like that.
It was really interesting when Bo walked out without her helmet on.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see her look to Vizsla, who looked to Din, as if it was like, okay, now we got to settle the saber.
I took that look. So Paz looks at Din, and to me, he almost was saying, like, is this okay? Like he was looking at Din, like, is it okay that the ladies are proposing this new situation? Because it's like, I mean, even in the world that we live in reality, outside of the show, there's a lot of division, and there's almost, there's this Paz Vizsla arguing with the armor, like, but she shows her face, right? So he's almost like asking, well, how can she be faithful if she's, she's doing this thing that flies in the face of what you've taught us and what we've been, doing for so long. But the armor is, again, she's finding the thing that is uniting all of them. So it's like Paz is, to me, he represents kind of like the suspicions that we may have of people who live differently from us. And we have to look to others in our community that we trust to be like, what do I make of this? Is this okay? And so it reminded me of, in a real life church situation or other community situation where we have to look to each other and kind of try to discern, I guess you could say, discernment. Part of the discernment process, as we say in the Catholic Church, is prayer and looking to what you've been taught, and then also counsel as well from wise people. And so that all is just kind of to say that, when we are trying to work together for the common good, sometimes we'll come across people who have very different opinions of things, and we have to, it seems like this show is saying, we have to find common ground at first, and try to discern a path forward. So,
well, as you're mentioning that too, I was thinking about too, where, well, when they were saying, she walks both, what was it? Has walked both worlds, and you are the only one, and you can unite us. I was thinking about in the Bible, at least in the New Testament, of course, Jesus walked both worlds as a divine and as human, but I think it's more like a St. Paul, because he was a Roman and a Jew and then a Christian, and he had his moment where nobody knew that he had seen Christ, with the road to Damascus, and and he was like, is this what I really saw? And this is the voice I heard and stuff. And in a sense, like Bo-Katan is saying, hey, she sees the mythosaur and Din didn't see it, and stuff. And then later on, when they're talking about, what's the proper way to be a Christian? And you have St. Peter saying, no, you have to follow certain Jewish customs. And St. Paul saying, no, the Gentile, and you have to follow these customs. It's kind of like Paz looking over at the Mandalorian and like, okay, what do we do? And they're trying to come to like a happy medium, I guess, or, but that's what I was thinking about more with some of the stuff as it was going on.
That's a great tie-in. Nice.
Absolutely.
I had one cute moment rewatching it, and I always have to look in on Grogu's little expressions and just imagining what would he be saying or thinking. And because of all the little mommy daddy moments with Bo and Din and Grogu lately, I was just like, oh, daddy, look, mommy's so pretty with her helmet off.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch it again and look at that little face, you can almost see him thinking it.
I think that's nice to bring up too, because I've seen that a lot more in this season of Grogu's ability to like express himself and communicate more and do more, which I've loved seeing. And I don't know, it starts to add in that idea that he's going to start talking hopefully soon. I would love to hear that, and I was just like a little kid, just see him grow up a bit more. And it's like with my little sisters, we just couldn't wait for her to start walking and talking, and you just want her to get there, so you're doing everything to get him there.
That's so true. Yeah, and it helps us to have a sense that even though he is really, really old, that he is actually growing and developing, as a person. So, we can't see inside his thoughts like Ahsoka can, and we can't read his mind all the time, but we can start to understand that he is learning, and he is, kind of coming into his own as far as establishing those relationships. And yeah, like Kathryn said, a mom and dad kind of relationship.
And that's something that's been talked about. I mean, because between Paz Vizsla now too, saying that's my son, in the prior episode, because I've gotten to the point of in the first ones, oh, he's a foundling, he's he's in your charge. It's it was more like a guardianship versus a parent relation, kind of thing, and now you hearing the Mandalorians refer to the children as their children and sons or whatever, and stuff is, I think, making a little more connection too. It's kind of neat to see the softer side of these guys.
Yeah, and a family is where we get that cooperation that I think we're going to be seeing, hopefully, with Din and Bo, because I know a lot of people are saying, oh well, Din has the Darksaber and Bo has the Mythosaur on her side, so who's going to actually rule Mandalore? Does this create a conflict? And I think the way that we are being led to believe this is going in, ideally, is that there will be some kind of cooperation between the two of them, possibly, or I don't know, maybe they will break the rules of the Darksaber, or possibly will have it on a technicality that Bo actually used the Darksaber when she was freeing Din, and so she was technically the last one to use it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Are we going to see Din actually, using the authority of the Darksaber, or what's the Darksaber going to be? What's the role going to be in all this?
I see it as becoming the conflict. I mean, even with that small little interaction between Paz and Din, I almost saw that as he respects him for having the Darksaber and having the traditions and walking the way, and compared to Bo, who's currently not doing anything that they've been taught and how things are going, he's looking to him for guidance instead of from the armor or from anyone else. He's sort of seen as that leader figure within the group without actually being it. And I think throughout the rest of this season, we'll start seeing, with the more tribes coming in, as who really is leading and who's just being there.
See, I was wondering, it's like, it seemed to me that when the armorer was when the Mandalorian was talking to the armorer about Bo-Katan earlier, and she was saying, well, she believes, or her, tribe or belief was with the Darksaber and her royalty, or whatever, the royal background. And I wasn't sure if the Children of the Watch were as strong in the Darksaber. I mean, I know Paz Vizsla challenged him for it, but was that because he was an apostate and he's, a true Mandalorian should have it? Or was it because, I didn't know that. So I didn't know if some would be coming in saying, let's be ruled by the the person in charge of the Darksaber, or if there's other sects that are like, no, we don't really follow that. I don't know how that. So, and having not watched all the other series, I don't know if they talk about all that stuff and stuff, but.
All I know is what I don't want to see. I don't want to see some huge heroic sacrifice over the Darksaber. We won't even get into the reasons why. That's another show for another time.
What would a heroic sacrifice for it be? Just dying so someone else can have the saber?
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't want to go there.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking about it. I'm like, the only time that it's really been given up like that is Sabine just handing it over, and that didn't end well last time. So
no. That's why I put heroic in there. It's not just about handing it over.
Yeah. So I mean, if I think for all of you that have not watched Rebels, I would suggest that you just look up online which episodes of Rebels are related to the Darksaber and watch those, because I mean, I'm sure they'll take care of you in terms of, making sure you can follow everything and, catching you up if you need to know something. But I just think having all the backstory with what has happened in the past with Bo and the Darksaber and how the Darksaber has influenced the Mandalorians in the past will kind of enrich your experience of maybe what we're going to see in the future, especially because we know that Moff Gideon was a big fan of the Darksaber, and it seems like he's still out there. He's still doing stuff. And so that's what we see at the end of this episode, is that the ship that was carrying him was apparently just attacked, and he's not there. and we learn that there's also Beskar on the ship where he's been liberated from. And so we know that Bo is supposed to go unite all the tribes of Mandalore. Does that include these people who seem to have liberated Moff Gideon? Who are these people? What's going on with that? Does anyone have theories about who liberated Moff Gideon and what Moff Gideon is up to?
Was it Beskar armor found in there, or was it just Beskar in general? Because that's what I was confused about, because, I mean, Mando got Beskar from the random bounty dude. So I feel like it could be anything.
Because it said it was a fragment of Beskar alloy. So
and it looked like it was in a blast burn.
Right.
Like the area of the ship looked burnt, and then there was a little glint of Beskar in there. So was it like one of those little, what do they call them? The birds, the little
the whistling birds.
Whistling birds. There we go. Was it one of their little, armaments of some kind that was used, or I don't know. I still want to know the story of how Gideon got the Darksaber. Do we know that fully yet?
No, I don't believe so. Just that he had it.
And I think it's implied that. So they tell us that the Empire basically destroyed Mandalore, and made sure that it was uninhabitable, and that they did raid Mandalore of its resources. So it's possible that during that attack, that Moff Gideon or someone in the Empire ended up, getting the Darksaber at that time. But so
that makes me think Bo wasn't carrying it around anymore. I don't get it.
Maybe.
It's like she just had it on display and was off hanging out with her friends. I don't know.
That sounds like Maul.
Yeah.
Well, the thing I'm wondering is, with earlier on with the pirates, they talked about Captain Teva's trying to put pieces together, and he's thinking, is that related to all this Moff Gideon stuff? And a couple episodes ago, I was bringing up the revenge idea on Bo-Katan and on Dr. Pershing, and I'm like, would this be another attack of revenge where they give the pirates the go ahead to do it? Because Krieg ended up going against, Moff Gideon and, Bo-Katan and everybody else. Or, and then is this really Mandalorians that were, extracting him, or is it a setup for them, making them look like Mandalorians because they want to keep it hidden that the Imperials are out there and growing and stuff. And that's what so it's like my thought is maybe they just found Mandalorian armor, made the, extraction, and then that's how it ended up, so that they would cover their tracks. Perhaps, I don't know. That was, but because I can't see, unless the only reason why a Mandalorian would seem to want Moff Gideon would be to give them their own justice, I guess, of some sort. I mean, I can't see them teaming up with him for what he's done to Mandalore and stuff. So,
yeah, I don't know. I think there's a whole lot of possibilities with this, and I think it is possible that there are some other Mandalorians out there that are not going to be known to the New Republic. But now that the covert of Din Djarin has come out into the light, they will probably be, I guess, targeted, for crimes against the New Republic, right? Liberating an enemy of the New Republic. That's definitely a possibility. And so from that, you could even imagine, maybe they're like, hey, Din, this was a terrible idea coming out into the light. Look at what's happened to us. I don't know. It's really going to be interesting to see what's happened here. But I think that Elia has definitely been trying to keep down Navarro for a reason. And that Moff Gideon must have something that he wants from Navarro, or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, all I know is, like you were talking about the nervousness with the armor and the helmet with Bo-Katan. It's like I've been looking back at these episodes and I'm thinking, boy, things are going relatively smoothly. It's like for the Mandalorian and stuff, and it makes, and then when you see the way Elia Kane was looking at Captain Teva, and then you see, this, and then, like you said, that was my other concern. It's like, once they're in the light, and if they think the Mandalorians are behind these things, well, let's find the ones that are the easiest to find, or
right.
Go for them. And so it's like, I don't know, I feel a little uneasy as we come into these last few episodes of the season that, we're going to find, because as we find out more about, Moff Gideon and stuff, somewhere we have to see them come into the light more as well and what their plans are.
Yeah. So any final thoughts, guys, on what you think is coming, or anything else about this episode that we missed?
Well, one other thing that kind of answers a question to, oh my gosh, I forget who brought it up in our last show. We were talking about how in the world does the planet that the group was on
Navarro?
able to support? No, not Navarro. The one before that.
The Covert. Yeah. Planet.
Well, when they were there, we were talking about how is it possible that that planet can support an animal as big as the crocoturtle, whatever you want to call that thing. And it was nice because the X-Wing flyover answered that question, that the lakes are a lot bigger than that one that we see, and they're all interconnected. So I was like, hey, there's the answer. There's enough room for the giant crocodile turtle.
Good catch.
I'll tell you one, actually, as you mentioned that too, what disturbed me a little bit was how easy you could find the Covert if you just have an astromech droid sitting there. And it's like, because I never would have thought about that, but it's like, that makes you an easy target if you can just communicate with him. I don't know if he sent out some messages or they communicate or whatever they did, but it didn't seem it was too hard for Captain Teva to find him.
Okay, well, that is all for us. What about all of you out there? What did you catch that we didn't catch? And do you have any other feedback with Star Wars questions, any Star Wars questions or comments? Let us know. You can email us at sqpn.com. That's starwars@sqpn.com. Or find StarQuest on Facebook, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Leave a comment there or simply tweet us at SQPN. And be sure to share the podcast on social media. Before we move on, we'd like to take a brief moment to recognize and thank the people that make this podcast possible, our patrons. And that is including Daniel K., Don T., Joe B., Monica V., and Adam N. Thank you all so much. You too can help StarQuest continue our mission by becoming a patron at sqpn.com/give. Another way that you can help is by letting people know who are watching The Mandalorian about the show. So you can tell them to subscribe to Secrets of Star Wars in any of their favorite podcast apps. You can also tell them that they can find it on the SQPN YouTube channel. And previous episodes of our show can be found at sqpn.com/Star Wars. All right, so that's it for us. Next week, we'll be taking a look at Chapter 22 of The Mandalorian. And until next time, Josh Beeghley, thank you for joining in the Secrets of Star Wars.
Always happy to join.
Kathryn Laffrey, thank you as well.
Thank you. This is fun.
And Captain Jon Koral, thanks for sailing with us once again.
Thank you. I had a great time.
And I am the one in the middle, the Bendu, Angela Sealana. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on Star Quest.
Here's another podcast on the Star Quest Network you're sure to enjoy. The Secrets of Movies and TV Shows. Find it wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/secrets.